So big numbers for 2021 in terms of cargo coming through your port system in South Carolina. That trend seems to be continuing to start 2022 as well. What are you seeing in terms of those volumes, and how quickly can you get them offloaded?
Well, so 2021 was a record year for the U.S. port industry. We, imported over 2.5 million TEU a month when the industry has capacity for about 2 million. So we see that trend continuing. The East Coast particularly is gaining some share relative to the West Coast. So we anticipate certainly to be very busy the next 6 months. And as you said, the challenge is to get import containers out of the terminal to clear space for more import containers.
I mean, we're coming off of record trade deficit numbers. We had Maersk this morning say that it expects to see some sort of normalization in volumes in these ocean-bound trade flows sometime in the second half of the year. Is that your expectation as well?
I would originally have said second half of the year. I think a lot of it depends on the inventory restocking. We are a very low inventory to sales ratio, and it's pretty hard to project a normalization right in what is traditionally the peak Christmas season. So I would say now probably fourth quarter of 22, we'll see some normalization. Again, a lot dependent. We're starting to see some signs of people buying more services, and maybe that leads to buying less goods. The only real solution is to get back to a more normal consumption pattern.
Yeah, the wallet shift is what we're all waiting for. Despite some of the encouraging headlines this morning, Jim, on ocean freight, still doesn't answer the lingering concerns about trucking. And I wonder whether or not you think that might follow if, in fact, ocean freight log jams do ease.
So trucking is the major issue that we have to fix in this country. We have not really made it possible for young people to come out of high school and get into the trucking industry. A lot of insurance and commercial driver's license issues. So this is the major strategic fix in terms of finding internships, in terms of making trucking an attractive industry. Container trucking should be a very attractive industry. The drivers can be home at night, should be able to make a good living. So we've got to work on that as priority one.
Why do you think it hasn't been seen as more attractive right now? And I guess given the fact that that is a strategic long-term fix, what are the other pieces of the puzzle that need to fall in place as well?
I think it's negligence really on all of our parts. If you think about the container trucking's not homogeneous. I mean, if you drive for Walmart and their fleet, it's different than container trucking. They're largely owner-operators. They earn a percentage of the revenue, and they really bear the inefficiency that happens everywhere else. They're sort of the lender of last resort in that. If a terminal doesn't work well, they don't make as much money, basically. So we've got to make it a priority to make them successful. And I don't think it's that hard to do. It starts really with basic respect.
We had the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, on CNBC earlier this morning. One of the things he was talking about was this infrastructure package. As we see that come to fruition, is that something that's going to help with some of these backlogs at ports like your system in South Carolina, or is it just the tip of the iceberg?
Well, Morgan, as you know from being here, I mean, we built a lot of infrastructure in the last 6 years. We weren't waiting to do that, and we spent $2 billion. I'd like to tell you that it's helpful, but the reality of life in our experience is that this infrastructure money goes for really long-term projects, projects that are needed 10 or 15 years from now. We don't have projects like that. We need it now. So we have resorted to other funding sources, state funding for an intermodal container transfer facility, plus our own operating cash flow and borrowing capacity.